how to draw a pit bull in a miniature size. The reference image is in the link below. Since this portrait is so small, you definitely have to have a sharp pencil for the details. Now with the eyes themselves, there's definitely a lot of detail in there, so pay attention to every single little detail. It's really important to make sure that the eyes are the key feature here. So with this kind of pit bull here, there's a little bit of yellow and some green tones and a little bit of some orange in there inside the eyes. So I really didn't use hardly any brown at all. But the eyes are kind of an almond shape. Now both of them are not going to look the same exactly, but if you want to use a little bit of a highlight in there, you can use an electric eraser to create more highlights. Now moving on to the ear, there's definitely a lot of folds happening with inside the ear. So pay attention to that and make sure that you're kind of drawing those before you start to really build up a lot of layers and add detail. That way, proportionally, you kind of understand where everything is at. You can also use mineral spirit oil to kind of smooth everything out and get it all well blended before you start to apply more layers. And if you're curious about the type of materials I use, you can check out my ebook, which is listed below. It is a colored pencil materials list. By continuing on here, let's go ahead and build up some of these layers on the left hand side. You definitely want to make sure that you have light colors as well as light pressure for building up these layers. It's super important. Focus on the highlights and the lowlights and a little bit of the midtones too. Then once you have a lot of those colors and the contrast, then you can start to add more detail. Now when it comes to drawing small, you don't have to apply a lot of detail at first. It's just more about making it all nice and smooth. When I first started drawing, I was really just trying to add all of the detail all at once and use super heavy pressure, and I ended up hurting my hands over time and wasting a lot of pencils. But I learned over time that if you just build out those layers and then you can use that mineral spirit oil to blend everything together and then start to add the detail afterwards, it's going to be way less stressful and it's going to look even more gorgeous. For this pit bull here, there's a lot of orange happening, but I'm using a little bit of some pink, a little bit of some yellow, and mixed in with the orange and a little bit of some brown. Now you can also use a light pale blue to add some contrast that really does help to make the portrait pop even more. You also want to pay attention to where the sun or the light is actually coming in from, and then kind of work from there, because having that nice contrast between the left side and the right side, or even if it's facing forward, it really does help just to make the portrait look more realistic and just to have fun, honestly. You can also use a slice tool to kind of etch away some of those little stray hairs. Ultimately, I just use it for the stray hairs and anything else because I don't want my portrait to look a little bit too scratchy. The nose also has a little bit of some pink tones in it, so work on that and then just kind of blend it all together. You could tell that the nose has similar colors to the rest of the head, so definitely want to kind of keep it consistent throughout and making sure that you're leaving room for those highlights until closer to the end and then kind of blending them in. Now working on the actual detail themselves, you definitely want to use more something like a dark brown color and just kind of draw in the same direction as the fur that you see. I definitely did not really think about the direction of the fur all too much when I first started, but it really is important to make sure that you have a good reference image that you can actually see the direction of the fur, because that will definitely make or break a portrait if you can't draw in the right direction where that fur is originally coming from. If you're kind of getting overwhelmed, it's okay. I definitely used to get overwhelmed when I first started. It took me about a whole year to really start getting comfortable with playing around with different colors, playing around with different techniques and patterns, and even the paper. The paper will make or break your portrait and your whole experience. So if you have the right kind of piece of paper, then you're going to enjoy and make better progress overall. So if you're interested in the kind of materials that I use, check out that ebook that's listed down below. It is the full materials list ebook. So you can see that the left hand side is a little bit darker than the right hand side. So I'm going to give a little bit more pressure and apply a little bit more layers on the left hand side. And then drawing the muzzle itself around the mouth and everything, you could definitely see that there is more pink tones and a little bit darker colors underneath the nose, and then it kind of gets a little bit lighter as it goes around the mouth. So definitely want to think about that, and then use a little bit of some light blue as a good contrast. My favorite color pencil to use is the dark sepia color. You could see that I'm using a little bit of that on the left hand side there. It's kind of a mix between gray and brown, and I love using it as an alternative to black because black can be very cooling, very flat looking. So I actually used that for the outline in the eyes and a little bit on the nose as well. I only used black on the nostrils and just a tiny bit around the eyes and maybe a little bit in the ears, but I really didn't use it all too much anywhere else. So you really won't have to blow through your black if you do it right. So in this area where the neck is, I kind of messed it up and I had to erase some of it because I really didn't want the dog to look like it had one of those little collars that the clowns wear or something. So I just kind of erased, and that's okay. I still end up making mistakes, but overall I think it turned out really good. So you really want to kind of get this neckline to look very well blended and almost have like a blurred background effect. So I'm using a lot of the mineral spirit oil to do that. Now, if you have any questions about the materials or about the methods, please let me know. And if you're actually interested in learning to draw your own pet, check out the link below. Learn to draw your own pet portraits. It's a whole 8-week program, so it's super, super in-depth. Go check it out. Let me know if you have any questions about it. And don't forget to add the whiskers in the end too. That's super important. But thank you so much for watching, and I will see you in the next one.